Hey guys, welcome back to Why Wait. I'm Chris, for those of you new to the channel, and today we're talking about black and gray tank handles, how to kind of properly keep these things working, and what to do if they're not working so well. Now, it's no big mystery. We all know that sometimes pulling these things can actually seem really hard, and sometimes we don't see any results when we do open or close them. What I mean by that is there are times when we as full-time RVers have actually gone to open our black tank and we pull that handle open and, well, we just don't get much of anything coming out. And this is after it's been closed for 2 weeks, and I know there's some stuff in there. So I know I got an issue, I got a problem. So let's go ahead and talk and troubleshoot some things about these handles. Now, first of all, what you don't want to do with these things is just grease them up with any kind of oil or lube. What you want to use is a dry lube on these. Now, the only thing I've been using for years now is Shield T9. And again, we can talk all about Shield T9. Plenty of videos if you want to go back and check this stuff out. A great dry lube plus the rust and corrosion protection for everything on your RV, okay? So what I like to do is just go ahead and spray a little bit right on here, wipe it down, and exercise the handle a little bit, in and out, in and out. If you guys are using anything that's not a dry lube, what's going to happen is you're going to build up dirt, residue, dust, and every time you push that handle in, all you're doing is jamming dirt down up in there, and eventually you're just going to end up ruining it. It's going to seize up and it's not going to be working properly. And guys, that's why I love Shield T9 so much. Like I just mentioned on the handles right here, using it as a dry lube to keep those handles lubed up, and it's not going to attract the dust and the dirt on those moving parts. Well, that's exactly what you want for your RV. When you're walking around and you're maintaining your RV, all these moving parts, you want that dry lube on these slide outs, on the awnings, on your jacks. All of these areas you need to keep lubed up, but you don't want to attract that dust and dirt and get all that stuff gummed up inside there. So that's what Shield T9 just comes into play. But the cool thing about Shield T9 is it's extremely versatile. So while other lubes, you're going to need white lithium grease, you're going to need a dry lube, you're going to need some kind of rust prohibitor, Shield T9 has all that covered with one product. I recently even just did my whole frame by spraying Shield T9 all over it. And if you go back and watch my older video from just a month or so ago, you'll see why I coat my entire frame, all of my underbelly down there, any basically steel moving part that I want to protect from rust and corrosion. And the Shield T9 is going to do that. So again, it's a very versatile product. So I'm not carrying a bunch of products and having to use a bunch of different things. If you need a white lithium like heavy duty grease on your ball for your hitch, or some heavy moving parts, metal on metal, again, the Shield T9 is going to have you covered right there. So the fact that I can now just carry one product and use it all over my RV, I can use it on side on squeaky doors, things like that. I can use it on locks. It's just very handy to have that one product and not have to be switching up all the time. So again, you guys have watched the channel. I'm a big fan of the Shield T9, and I just wanted to let anybody know, for any new viewers that we have, go check it out. Go check out some of the older videos to see all those applications and where and how I'm using Shield T9 all the time. All right, let's jump back into these tank handles over here. The other thing that can happen is these cables can actually eventually over time actually break. Now, it's not the hardest thing in the world to replace. If you actually go in your basement and usually open up your basement wall and go behind your basement wall, you can go on the other side of this panel or wherever your handles are located, and you can usually trace and track to see where they're going to. And what they're going to is basically just a little door. And it's basically just like this. It's just like this Valterra gate valve, which you guys may have on the outside of your RV. These are usually installed somewhere after the tank, along the piping before it comes here, and that's going to be what is actually opening and closing your black tank. It's not actually a little door that's on the tank itself. It's a little bit further down, somewhere in the piping in your underbelly. One thing you guys can actually do to try to keep these gate valves lubed up, I use Thetford's drain valve lube. I've been using this for years. It's actually getting a little bit harder to find on Amazon, but I will have links below down to this. And when you guys go to flush your black tank before you put your chemicals and stuff, go ahead and dump some of this drain valve lube down into your black tank and your gray tanks. You know, make sure the handle is closed, and that's going to actually keep those doors lubed up a little bit, keep them working. Now, Even though you're lubing that door up inside there, what's going to happen is sometimes that is still going to get blocked. And we all know what goes in the black tank, and sometimes when you open that up, then you go to close it again, not everything has kind of come down that drain. There's going to be some toilet paper or something else. And what you're doing is you're kind of smashing, and that's getting caught in that gate valve, and it's not seating all the way, it's not closing all the way, and it's going to leave a crack. Now, this isn't the biggest issue for your gray tanks, but with the black tank, what's going to happen is when you go to close that black tank, and I hope you guys are always keeping the black tank closed all the time, well, when you're hooked up, as liquids and things go into the black tank, it's going to slowly seep out. You may not even notice it coming out of your sewer hose. You may have one of those clear elbows. It's not going to be a bunch of water come down. It's just going to slowly trickle. You wouldn't even notice it. And all the solids are going to keep building up in that black tank, creating the dreaded poop pyramid, possibly clogs, while all of the water and urine and liquids keep coming out. So that can be an issue. And we've had this happen before as full-time RVers. Well, what happens is sometimes I'll notice after, a few weeks that, hey, this black tank should be full. What's going on? Let me go ahead and just be proactive, and let me just go ahead and empty it anyways. And I go to empty it, and I don't get a lot of stuff coming out. Right away, I know that tank valve, that valve inside the black tank didn't close all the way last time. So what you can do is, here's a good test to make sure your handles are closing all the time. After you've opened your black tank, and you've flushed it all out, and you've cleaned it out real good, you're ready to close it, go ahead and close that black tank handle. Sometimes I'll exercise it a few times and push it in real good. Then I'll have somebody go inside, fill the toilet bowl completely full with water, and I'll also turn on my black tank flush. I'll turn that on, I'll have them empty the toilet, and I'll come over here and watch my clear elbow. If I see some water come out, even just a trickle, I know that black tank didn't seat all the way, it didn't close all the way. And I'll go ahead and flush it again, fill it up with like 20-25 gallons of water, flush it again, try to clear anything out that's blocking that gate valve. Then I'll go through the process again, close it up, and we'll test it again. If I don't see anything come out, I feel pretty good that it's totally closed up. So that's just a good tip and a way to test to see if your tanks are closing when you think they're closing. Because if you're full-timer and you're hooked up all the time, even with your gray tanks, you may close it, but you don't realize it just didn't seat all the way. And you're getting enough drip that's constantly kind of got some water coming out and running down your pipe. You go to open up the tank, you think it's pretty full, and you don't have much coming out. So something to keep an eye on, and that's a good way to test to see if they're closing. Now, I mentioned earlier that sometimes these cables break. It's not that big of a deal to actually replace these. Like I said, you can follow the cable behind your wall and see where it goes, and that's where you're going to find the gate valve. Sometimes you can actually look down over in your basement, look down below, or you may have to drop the coroplast, which you're going to have to do if you got to replace it, and you're going to find where that gate valve is located amongst the plumbing. Now, I've actually had to open one of these up before. It's literally just 4 screws, and you're going to basically just unscrew it, and that gate valve is going to come off. You can actually take it out, clean it up if you need to. Sometimes you can just take the gate valve and clean it up. We had our kitchen gray tank full of oily residue and basically just kind of gunk over time from grease and stuff like that. And I was able to actually go under there. They're usually located at a pretty easy spot where you don't have to drop the whole coroplast. All we've had to do both times is just open up a corner, and you can take that gate valve out, just pull it out a little bit, clean it up, clean the pipe right there, and then put it back in. If you need to replace it, it's the same thing. The 2 pipes just basically connect where the gate valve is. It's a couple of screws. You can put a new one in there, screw it back in, and you just run that cable right back up to here. It's just like a simple nut that comes off, slide it through, attach the handle. It's not that hard of a project to do. And by the way, guys, if you are curious about some more information on how to change these handles out and how to change out the termination valves underneath your underbelly, stay tuned for a video. Keep an eye out for it, because I'm going to be doing that project pretty soon, and we'll dive into that whole thing, and you'll get some footage and see how we actually do that. It'll be a fun project. It's the black tank handle that I'm going to be replacing, so stay tuned for that one. So guys, some basic maintenance: using a dry lube on the handles, exercising them once in a while, use the Thetford drain lube inside of the tanks, keep that gate valve working, and then if you have to, you may possibly have to replace it, but kind of knowing where they're at underneath your underbelly to drop a corner of the coroplast is kind of a good idea, just so you can kind of find where they're at, see if they're leaking once in a while, and then if you have to replace them, fix them, or just clean them, you're going to know where they're at, and it's not going to be that hard to handle. Guys, as always, I appreciate you coming out and watching the video. As always, get out there, start your full-time RV adventure, because why wait? We'll see you next time.